Good evening, everyone. Welcome, and this is a wonderful group to come out on this cold, rainy, drizzly night. Thank you for caring enough to do that. My name is Sister Claire McGowan. I'm Executive Director of New Pioneers for a Sustainable Future, which is a community nonprofit organization founded in 2005 to promote sustainable thinking and sustainable development here in rural central Kentucky. Part of the work that we do is to try to bring to people's attention concerns about sustainability in our local area. And so tonight we are focusing on another pipeline. The title of our program tonight is What? Another pipeline? And those of you who have lived here over the past 2 years know that almost 2 years ago we began receiving reports that a company called Williams Boardwalk, a partnership called Williams Boardwalk, had proposed to build a pipeline through, at that time, Nelson and Marion and 13 other Kentucky counties to carry natural gas liquids from the fracking fields in the Northeast to the Gulf Coast. And many of us, many of you, became involved, and we worked very, very hard with our communities and with our legislators. And to our great joy, that pipeline was abandoned. We found out in August officially that that Bluegrass pipeline has been abandoned. But we only had a couple of months of respite until we started to hear that another company, Kinder Morgan Mark West, was proposing to convert an existing pipeline that runs through Marion and Boyle and Taylor and some 14 other Kentucky counties to do the same thing. So we started to think about how do we bring this to people's attention? How do we help people to understand what's the difference between the previous pipeline and this proposed project? And how do we begin to do the work that citizens can do to protect our safety and our health in all the ways that are possible? So we have an excellent panel tonight. We have Judge John Mattingly, who is the County Judge Executive for Marion County. And he was telling me earlier that John is part of a family that has lived in Kentucky since 1772.
1774.
1774.
Okay. Right before Revolution.
Many generations. He doesn't look that old, does he? Many generations of Mattinglys in Marion County. And for many years, John was a teacher in Marion County, a vocational agriculture teacher. And for the last 2 terms, he has served as Marion County Judge Executive. And our other panelist is Susan Clausen, who is a co-member of the Loretto community. Susan is a registered nurse by trade. She is a very fine carpenter and constructor of buildings. She is the director of Cedars of Peace Retreat Center, and in her spare time she has been very active in working against the Bluegrass pipeline and now willing to get involved again. So we have 2 very fine resource people with us tonight. We welcome you both, and let us hear what they have to share with us. The format that we usually use is about 12 minutes or so from each of the panelists, a little time for them to dialogue with each other, and then we'll open it up to all of you to ask your questions, make your comments, raise objections, or whatever it is you would like to do. So let us begin.
Okay.
Susan?
I'm going to start with an overview. I don't know how you all learned best, but I learned best when there's something general first, and then that gives me a framework for some more specifics. So, but first I'm curious, how many people here are from counties that are threatened by this Tennessee gas line, Kinder Morgan? Okay, all right. Yes, once it starts hitting home, we get involved in a different way, don't we? So I didn't know where natural gas came from in Marion County. You know, it's just there. So what I've learned, the Tennessee Gas Line, since the 40s and 50s, has been running natural gas from the south, from Texas, up through Kentucky, up to the Northeast, up as far as New York. There are a series of lines. It's not just one line. Through Marion County, there's 3 lines. And I imagine through the other counties as well. So there's 3 different lines. 2 of them were built in the 40s and 50s. And the third one was laid in the late 60s and early 70s. In 2012, a company that we're becoming familiar with, the Kinder Morgan Energy Pipeline Company, bought the Tennessee Gas Line. And then joined together with another pipeline company, Mark West Pipeline Company, and decided to do a joint venture to do what they call repurposing one of those Tennessee gas lines. So what they mean by repurposing is they want to take one of those 3 lines, and instead of having it run south to north, they want it to run north to south. And instead of running natural gas through the pipeline, they want to run natural gas liquids through the pipeline. I don't know if everyone here is familiar with the difference between natural gas and natural gas liquids. So just very briefly, natural gas is methane, and that's what we all are familiar with. It's how many people heat their homes, stoves, etc. When the methane is extracted with a process called fracking, other gases are extracted at the same time. And with the whole natural gas boom, what they've realized is there's export value in these other gases that are released. So some of those other gases that are included in the natural gas liquids, they're gases like ethane, propane, and butane, and then some that are in more liquid form, such as pentane, hexane, and heptane. So all of those together are what we call natural gas liquids, and they want to run those from the north down to Texas and Louisiana, where there are plants that separate out those different gases, and then many of them are exported. They're used for different things, but primarily for making plastics. So you're getting the picture, right? When they talk about repurposing, it's a major shift, because one major part of it is that these hazardous natural gas liquids have to run through a highly pressurized pipeline. They need high pressure in order to be in liquid form. So start to imagine this old pipeline under high pressure carrying natural gas liquids, which are much more volatile than natural gas. And you start to get the idea of what we're talking about. Two questions that I ask myself in this kind of situation: who benefits and who risks? The risks: pipelines leak. New pipelines leak. Old pipelines leak more. Old pipelines under very high pressure are going to leak even more. Just a few statistics. So minor leaks, the statistics of minor leaks for pipelines, there was an average in 2013 of 20 minor leaks per day. Major leaks, every 3 days there's a major leak in a hazardous pipeline. A major leak is classified as one that causes a death or injury that requires hospitalization, causes a fire or explosion, $50,000 or more of property damage, or the release of 5 barrels or more of hazardous liquids. Every 3 days, there's that kind of leak. Now, of course, the pipeline and energy companies will always say, safety is our #1 priority. We have ways of monitoring. There are things that I learned about called smart pigs that go into the pipelines and examine them from the inside. There are drones that they send across the pipeline. There's helicopters, and they will say, safety is our #1 concern. But what we know is that fewer than 20% of the leaks are actually detected by this high-tech pipeline control center. And once they are detected, because there's so much, they're talking about 400,000 barrels a day going through the pipeline. By the time they're detected and something is done about it, there are leaks. So old pipeline leaks. I mean, the Tennessee gas line, even if it looks like, at least in our county, it looks like that they're going to use the newer line. But that newer line, built in the early 70s, still uses the old pipes where the welding, it's called longitudinal welding. So it's just it's a strip that's welded. And that strip, I could show you pictures of that, it just breaks open. So in the past 10 years, the Tennessee Gas Pipeline has had 92 significant incidents with their pipelines, resulting in over $88 million worth of property damage and 19 federal enforcement actions. Okay, that's just with natural gas. That's not the highly pressurized natural gas liquids yet. Faulty infrastructure was the major cause of those leaks. Corrosion, both internal and external, equipment malfunctions, faulty welding, all of the kinds of things that one would expect for an old pipeline. Old pipelines under very high pressure, it's even more serious. The pressurized natural gas liquid pipelines explosions are up to 150 times more severe than natural gas explosions because of all that pressure. So many of you know, I'm sure already, that in Floyd County a number of years ago, a 4-inch natural gas liquids pipeline exploded, destroyed 5 homes, sent 9 people to the hospital. That's for a 4-inch pipeline. What we're talking about with the Tennessee Gas Pipeline repurposing is a 24-inch pipeline. Kinder Morgan Pipeline Company is one of the largest pipeline companies in the U.S. in terms of what they call midstream, which is which is the pipeline part of it. It is the largest company in the U.S. Since 2003, Kinder Morgan has been responsible for over 180 spills, evacuation, explosions, fires, and fatalities in 24 states. I looked up Kinder Morgan and lawsuits, and there were so many Google sites for Kinder Morgan and lawsuits that I did not have time to go through it all and categorize it. Just one example, the lawsuit, the state of California sued Kinder Morgan for over $5 million for polluting 3 waterways, and the state won. So those are some of the risks, which obviously are, it's the local landowners who carry those risks. So who benefits? Well, according to Forbes magazine, Richard Kinder has a personal net worth of $11.6 billion. So if finances are a benefit, Rich Kinder certainly benefits. His chief operating officer receives almost $16,000 per hour. The chief finance officer only receives about $5,000 per hour. So hold that up against the fact that in 2011, the U.S. Department of Labor sued Kinder Morgan for underpaying their workers. Who benefits and who risks? Now, what we keep hearing is that the fracking and the pipelines are all part of the energy independence for the U.S., and that we all benefit because of that. So I went to a website that talked about the natural gas liquid exports and did some calculating and realized that there has been a 166% increase of natural gas liquids in the past 10 years. And last year alone, from 2013 to the projected for 2014, is over a 61% increase. We've not had a lot of contact yet directly. We've not had any real direct contact with Kinder Morgan, but the Bluegrass Pipeline, the Williams Company, repeatedly tried to give us the impression that the products were used in the U.S. and they were for the benefit of all of us. I look at those statistics about exports and think, So maybe just 2 things as I finish up. And that's the question of what do they want us to believe? You know, I already referred, they want us to believe that their product is going to benefit us. I don't see much of that. And they want us to believe that we are totally dependent on an energy source that is destructive. I personally believe that we, human beings, have the creativity necessary to meet our energy needs in ways that won't destroy the future. And that whole concept that we have to be dependent on their product is a way of trying to limit our creativity, limit our options, and I actually sometimes I feel insulted Because they'll bring in engineers and highly educated people who will talk and talk and talk in terms that I might not understand, and yet each of us here, just with common sense, can know that old pipelines carrying hazardous liquids under very high pressure are a problem. And they want us to believe it's not.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you very much.